Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. These horrifying accounts of unexplained phenomena have been reported over recent years, showing the vulnerability of the human psyche to invasive dark forces. Grim cavern presence. In 2008, a group of US Marines embarked on a covert mission to search a series of caves located near Ad-Dawania, Iraq, after receiving intelligence that insurgents were potentially hiding within. The Marines split into groups of 3 to sweep the deep, oppressive caverns. Around the 200-yard mark into one of the caves, the team, led by Sergeant James Lead, received word over his radio that a man and a woman, armed with rifles, had just been apprehended by another team. The pair were found far inside a separate cave, strangely seated around a small fire next to an ancient stone tablet. The detainees were sent back to base in an armoured vehicle for questioning. Lead decided to take the stone tablet, believing it may hold some importance. On one side was an inscription in a language he could not decipher. On the reverse was an unsettling drawing of a horned reptilian face with serpentine eyes and tongue. Lead kept the artefact as a souvenir. Before the couple were loaded into the truck, the woman ominously told Lead, "You'd be wise to leave her behind." Over the next several nights, Lead was plagued by horrific nightmares in which he swiftly slayed his own wife and daughter. Upon waking, he would hear a sinister voice damning him to hell. Initially brushing the nightmares off as stress-related, Lead soon found his sense of smell becoming unusually acute, able to detect scents from great distances. The ominous dreams persisted after Lead returned home to Camp Pendleton in California. He showed his wife Heather the tablet, which she kept as decor in their home. Within 2 days of his homecoming, Lead awoke in the middle of the night to find Heather wandering from room to room in a disoriented, trance-like state, mumbling incoherently to herself. This continued for 2 weeks, until one fateful evening when Lead stepped out of the shower to find Heather sitting on their bed, staring transfixed at the stone tablet. She was completely unresponsive to his attempts to rouse her from her trance. When he grasped her face and turned it towards him, her eyes were jet black and cold, her teeth gritted in a demonic scowl. Heather began whispering unintelligibly, her voice suddenly deep and masculine. A putrid, sulphurous odour permeated the room as an unearthly presence seemed to invade their home. Sensing a dark force gripping his wife, Lead immediately seized her hand and frantically recited the rosary until Heather spoke again in her natural tone, confused and disoriented by the episode. Lead urgently discarded the stone tablet outside in the trash. In the days that followed, the disturbances ceased, but the lingering unease remained over what malevolent entity had possessed Heather that fateful night. Ominous miracle. In November of 2017, in the small town of Creekside, Pennsylvania, John Reed returned home from work one evening to find his wife Maggie disturbed after learning their 91-year-old widowed neighbour, Judith Swanson, was mysteriously pregnant. Judith's husband perished in World War II, and she had not remarried in the over 70 years since becoming a widow. The idea of a woman her age becoming pregnant was preposterous. The next day, John alone attended the gender reveal party for Judith at her granddaughter Isabella's urging, as most of Judith's elderly friends and siblings had passed. Upon arriving, John was perplexed to find only Isabella and himself in attendance. Isabella explained Judith was still getting ready upstairs and showed John a sonogram of a seemingly healthy fetus. John made polite conversation with Isabella until Judith made her entrance. John asked after Isabella's husband, to which she ominously replied he was on his way after helping his brother fix his car. Sensing imminent danger, John asked to leave, but was paralysed with fear as Isabella eerily remarked on John's childless marriage and lack of intimacy with his wife. She placed her icy hand on John's and whispered, "It's a boy," as Judith creaked down the stairs. John sat frozen in horror as the elderly woman approached, wearing her husband's severed face. She announced that they had not only arranged John's impending divorce and demise to collect his life insurance, but the birth of his long-awaited son. John fled from the house in terror. He relayed the horrifying events to Maggie, who was mortified for her husband and immediately called the police to investigate. But when officers arrived at Judith's home, she was found deceased in her bedroom, having passed peacefully in her sleep the night before. No evidence of wrongdoing was discovered, leaving John to wonder if the twisted tea party was merely a trauma-fueled apparition. Umbrella stalker. One November night in 2020, a Pennsylvania college student decided to take an early morning walk to relieve anxiety about upcoming exams. Along his route, he noticed a peculiarly dressed man waiting at a crosswalk intersection, wearing a business suit, rain hat, and holding an open umbrella despite there being no rain. Feeling unsettled, the student ignored the man and continued on. He soon came across a playground where he spotted someone crawling atop the monkey bars instead of hanging from below, moving with an insectile centipede-like motion. Looking closer, the student spotted a closed umbrella resting against the playground slide, matching the one previously seen. Growing fearful, he hurried along only to glimpse what looked like someone crawling under a parked SUV before emerging out the other side. Passing by the vehicle, the student spotted the same umbrella propped against it. Panicked, the student broke into a sprint towards his apartment. Checking his pockets for keys, he noticed a lone car parked on the curb ahead, with the silhouette of a man staring back wearing a rain hat, presumably the same figure who had been trailing him all along. As the student fumbled to unlock his door, an umbrella suddenly fell onto his feet, having been left there intentionally. He rushed inside to safety, only to have the neighbour across the hall knock, asking for help, fixing her smoke detector. After assisting her, the student locked his door once again, but was horrified to realise he had left it unlocked the entire time. Just then, the umbrella that had been planted by his door tipped over as a grumbling voice uttered that he had always been one step ahead. Before the student could react, the power cut out and he felt a sharp pain in his back as the obsessed stalker apparently assailed him. Collapsing to the floor, the student wondered if perhaps he was better off this way, having predicted his own madness and delusions would someday overtake him. Torirangi demon. In July of 2011, an American couple vacationing in New Zealand went camping for a night along the picturesque shores of Lake Taupo, a volcanic lake known for its striking scenery, but also its ominous local legends. The husband had been warned by a local Maori guide to beware Torirangi, a shape-shifting demon said to roam the area. That night, the couple was awoken to chilling shrieks and howls emanating from the surrounding forest and waters. Investigating the disturbance, they encountered 3 terrified local teenagers who had fled into their campsite after being chased through the woods by an unseen entity. As the blood-curdling cries drew nearer, a demonic mist rose from the lake's surface, followed by the emergence of a hulking dark mass. But as the husband shone a light on the creature, it turned out to be just a diver in a wetsuit. The man explained he was monitoring mercury toxicity in the lake at night to avoid tourists, but his nonchalant demeanour struck the couple as odd and inexplicable. As the diver approached, speaking cheerfully, the husband witnessed what appeared to be writhing tentacles morphing out of his body, accompanied by a ghastly sulphuric stench. Conversing in a deep baritone, the diver removed his mask to reveal nothing but the empty back interior of his helmet. "You don't even know what this is, do you?" he uttered chillingly. The couple fled to their rental car in terror, wanting nothing more than to escape the seemingly possessed diver and the shrieking evil that had descended over the lake. They later learned from the guide that no divers were ever sent to the lake at night due to the dangerous conditions. The couple left New Zealand convinced that they had narrowly escaped the demon Torirangi itself. Basement-dwelling aunt. In 2019, a Pittsburgh woman named Kate Wansley began staying at her elderly mother's home to care for her after surgery. Her bedridden, disabled Aunt Linda occupied the basement, having lost a leg years prior from an infected ulcer due to severe pulmonary disease and poor circulation. One night, Kate brought her aunt a cup of ice before going to take a bath. Upon getting out, she discovered the power in the house had gone out. Venturing towards her bedroom, she was startled to see someone enter the room in the darkness. Shining her phone flashlight, she was shocked to reveal her nude Aunt Linda sitting on her bed, who greeted her cheerily and declared, "I'll have my legs back soon, honey." Horrified by this impossibility, Kate rushed to the basement to find her aunt deceased, lying cold on her mattress. Paramedics later determined she had suffered a fatal heart attack or stroke sometime earlier in the evening after her niece last saw her. While rationality suggested a bizarrely timed coincidence or hallucination, Kate could not shake the supernatural encounter she felt certain she had experienced in the blackout.